now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! 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 Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today we kick off a new week that I'm calling Christmas Chestnuts. And we're going to start things off with a family favorite around the Williams house, a little-known movie called The Christmas Gift, starring John Denver, Jane Kasmerick, Jenny James, Edward Winter, Pat Corley, Mary Wicks, Kurtwood Smith, and James Callahan. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said in the introduction, today we kick off a week of what I like to call Christmas Chestnuts. Now, for me and my family, these are the movies that must be watched every year around the holidays. And we're going to kick things off with a little known film called The Christmas Gift. And as our movie opens, we meet George Billings, a widowed New York City architect and a single father. George and his daughter Alex lost their wife and mother just a year prior at Christmas time. Ever since, George has devoted more time to his work at the Renfield Development Company for his boss, Thomas Renfield. Now, Thomas Renfield has been given a substantial bonus for his company from his biggest client, with the caveat that it must be invested by the 31st of December. With this in mind, Renfield decides to send George and Alex on a trip to Georgetown, Colorado, in the hopes of discovering some land that the Renfield Development Company can purchase for their investment. George and Alex touch down in Georgetown, and almost immediately, George is captivated by how much Georgetown looks like the town where he grew up in Grainsville, Nebraska. George takes out his camera and he begins to take some pictures as Renfield requested. But when he tries to mail the photos out the same day, he discovers that the town post office is only accepting letters to Santa as its letter day, which is virtually a town holiday. When Susan McMillan, the town's postal clerk, attempts to explain this to George, the two bicker and butt heads. After his unpleasant experience at the post office, George and Alex go to check in at their hotel, where we meet Henrietta Sawyer and her brother, Bud, who owns the Busy Bee Cab Company. Now, Bud and Henrietta, or Aunt Henny as she'll be known the rest of the time, attempt to explain to George why they and the rest of the town of Georgetown still believe in Santa Claus, but they stop and tell him that he'll better understand at the town Christmas tree lighting ceremony that evening, where they tell the story of the town's legend. At the ceremony, George learns that 100 years ago, a young boy took pity on a starving man with a long white beard and gave him some food. In return for the young man's generosity, on Christmas morning, their wagons were filled with food, blankets, and handmade toys for the kids. The starving man with the long white beard that the boy took pity on was Santa Claus. The legend also states that the town would remain prosperous for 100 years until a miracle repeated itself, and this is the 100th year. A few days pass, and George begins to befriend some of the other townsfolk. Clara Huckle, who runs the town newspaper, Bob Truesdale, the banker, and Jake Sawyer, a rancher who is about to lose his land. Renfield feels that this is the perfect property to purchase for his developments. Unfortunately, George has begun to fall in love with the town, the people, and specifically Susan. When Renfield and his board arrive in Georgetown to sign the paperwork with the bank, Susan discovers the truth behind George's visit, while Alex feels like her dad lied to her. As a result of her father's betrayal, Alex runs away to a hideout cabin that was shown to her by Scruff Richards, Jake's son, who Alex had befriended. George and Susan temporarily put their differences aside and they head off to Jake's ranch in order to enlist he and Scruff to help find Alex. Scruff takes them to the cabin where they find a scared and cold Alex, who is elated to see her daddy. On Christmas Eve, during the town's church service, George is given the pastor's time to speak in order to try and rally the town to help Jake and keep Renfield out of Georgetown. The townspeople put up their savings, their homes, and their businesses in order to give Jake Richards and his family a second lease on life. Bob Truesdale tears up Renfield's check, and he, George, Alex, Susan, and the rest of the townspeople head up to the Richards ranch to give him the good news. George tells Jake that his debts are paid off. The ranch is still his, and another Christmas miracle has occurred, just as the legend prophesied. The townspeople then sing Silent Night to Jake and his family as our movie comes to its end. There's a number of reasons as to why this is a family favorite of mine and the Williams family. Number one, first and foremost, let's just get it out of the way, John Denver. My mom has always been a huge John Denver fanatic. She raised me on John Denver. I have passed my knowledge of John Denver on to my daughter, Natalie, who you'll be seeing in about a week when me and Jeff discuss the third part of our top 10 Disney soundtrack songs. But there's just something about John Denver that, personal life notwithstanding, was always just so innocent and pure when he was presented in movies and his song lyrics and his public celebrity persona, that you just can't help but be mesmerized by his charisma and his charm. Then you've got Kurtwood Smith, who plays Jake in this, better known as Red, the dad from that 70s show. You've got James Callahan, the grandfather from Charles in Charge from the mid-late 80s to the early 90s. You've got so many names in this film. You've got John singing Love Again, which was on his One World album that came out shortly after this movie. You've got the fact that John Denver was filming this film when the Challenger disaster occurred and took a break from shooting the set, went to his trailer and wrote the song called Flying for Me, which appears on the same album. Love that song. One of my favorite John Denver songs. And then you've just got the simple hometown feel of this with, again, the Scrooge-esque character, Renfield. And you've got John, basically George Billings, is the guy that tries to fight the good fight. And he starts the film, he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's so wrapped up in his work that he has Renfield's mentality at first. But you kind of see all of that harsh exterior start to chisel away the more he meets the people in the town. And he hears the story about the legend, and he's hanging out with Aunt Henny and Bud and Bob Truesdale and Clara and Susan. And his and Susan's relationship is starting to form and come together. And Alex and Susan, their relationship is starting to come together, where Alex very accepting of Susan. You've got Alex and Scruff's bond that comes together. And she even says during the movie at one point that if he wasn't moving, they'd probably be best friends. But this is a really forgotten gem. It's currently on Tubi for free with ads. If you've never seen it, please, please, I implore you, watch The Christmas Gift on Tubi. I think you will be thoroughly surprised, and it might just become one of yours and your family's brand new Christmas chestnuts. When it comes to my rating for The Christmas Gift, I give it an easy 5 stars. This is so good. The movie formula story itself may be very simple. It may be something you've seen 100 times over, but it's something about the charm and the charisma of John Denver that just ropes you in and captivates you. And then again, being a child of the 80s and having the grandpa from Charles in Charge, having the dad from that 70s show, all these other little things kind of add into the melting pot of it. And you gotta get sucked in and watch it. 5 out of 5 stars for me when it comes to The Christmas Gift. What do you guys think? Those of you that have seen this before, if you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's have that conversation, that discussion, that debate, that interaction that I'm always asking you guys for in the comments below. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And we're going to start the Santa Claus trilogy. First up on the agenda, the original 1994 The Santa Claus, starring Tim Allen, Eric Lloyd, Wendy Crewson, Judge Reinhold, David Krumholtz, Paige Tamada, and Peter Boyle. And then, following that, at the top of the following hour, it'll be time for another edition of The Dads, Not Always on Wrestling, as Jeff and I and our special guest discuss Part 2, 1971 to the year 2000, of Disney's greatest soundtrack songs. You're not going to want to miss out on that whatsoever. Got the Renaissance era in there. Going to be some hot takes, some controversial picks. Make sure you tune in. You're not going to want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, on Renegades Reviews, on The Dads, Not Always on Wrestling. And we've still got so much in store for you for the rest of the month and the rest of the year. So make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that notification bell is turned on so you don't miss out anytime a video drops right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, or anytime we go live, as is the case with Statboy Sports Bar, Open Mic Night, pay-per-view PLE coverage, etc. Share these videos with your family, friends, loved ones, coworkers, movie fanatics, cinephiles in your life, fans of John Denver, fans of Kurtwood Smith, fans of James Callahan, fans of Jane Kasmerick, anybody you can think of that would enjoy this content in this video, share it with them. It's the only way we're going to boost up visibility in YouTube's algorithms so I can eventually get monetized, make some money on these videos. Thank you once again to everyone who joined me and tuned in today. It means more to me than you'll ever know. And I will see you guys next time.